I will say a sentence or two in Hebrew, Jim, with your permission, and then I will provide a short introductory remarks, and then we'll ask you to deliver your talk. Is it okay with you?
Great, thank you.
טוב, אז אחר הצהריים טובים, זה באמת מפגש מאוד מיוחד שאנחנו מארגנים, בכל זאת אנחנו נשמע הרצאה ממאמן ברמה מאוד מאוד גבוהה, מאמן NBA, מאמן קולג'ים ברמה הגבוהה ביותר שיש. ביקשנו מג'ים בוילן לדבר קצת על מנהיגות בספורט ועל פילוסופיית האמון שלו. מי שקרא את הביוגרפיה שלו, בוויקיפדיה לפחות, אז יודע שהיה לו ups and downs, כמו לכל מאמן בספורט ההישגי. נדמה לי שעכשיו הוא ללא קבוצה, ואני חושב שזה מאוד מאוד מעניין לשמוע מאדם שהיה בטופ, אני תכף אגיד כמה משפטים באנגלית. בכל זאת, היה שותף ל3-4 אליפויות NBA, כאסיסטנט קואוץ', אבל 3-4 אליפויות NBA, זה לא דבר של מה בכך, ואימן בקולג'ים, NCAA, טורניר הגמר, ברמות הגבוהות ביותר, ועם זאת לפעמים גם לא סיים את העונה, וכמו שקורה, אתם יודעים, הרבה פעמים גם למאמנים הטובים ביותר. אז אני מאוד מאוד שמח שאנחנו כאן, ואני כמובן מודה לכל מי שהגיע. Okay, so good afternoon and shalom. Jim, shalom in Hebrew means welcome as well as peace. Both meanings of the word seem to be appropriate for the opening of this special session. The Academic College at Wingate is honored to host the American professional basketball coach, James Francis Boylan, for a Zoom meeting. Mr. Boylan has an impressive record working in the NCAA and NBA, as well as at international levels. In addition, he has been an integral part of successful organizations, winning titles and championships. For example, Coach Boylan was the coach of the Chicago Bulls of the National Basketball Association for 2 seasons. Previously, he served as head basketball coach for the University of Utah, coaching the program from 2007 to 2011. The Utah job was his first head coaching position after spending over a decade as an assistant coach at both the NBA and NCAA level. For example, prior to joining Utah, Mr. Boylan spent 2 years at Michigan State University as assistant coach. As I said previously, Coach Boylan has been part of successful organizations. During his coaching career, he was an assistant coach with the Houston Rockets and helped the team win 2 NBA championships. Another example, on June 28, 2013, Mr. Boylan was hired by the San Antonio Spurs as an assistant coach for the 2013-14 season. In that season, Coach Boylan won his third NBA championship after the Spurs defeated the Miami Heat 4-1 in the 2014 NBA Finals. At the international level, Mr. Boylan also coached with David Vanderpool, the Canadian men's national basketball team. Before asking Coach Boylan to deliver his talk about leadership in sport and his philosophy of coaching, I would like to thank Mr. Oved Yecheskel, chair of the board of the Academic College in Wingate, for the initiative of inviting Coach Boylan to be with us, and also to Dr. Ele Donsky, head of the School of Exercise and Sport Sciences in our college, who helped me organize this session. And finally, of course, I would like to thank all the participants who are attending this meeting. So before Coach Boylan will deliver a speech, we thought that it would be better to ask Coach Boylan to start his lecture. And then he said that he would like to listen to questions throughout his lecture. So Yarin will deliver me the questions that will be raised by the audience. And every few minutes, I will ask Coach Boylan a question or two. So, Coach Boylan, thank you very much for joining us here in Israel, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to participate in this Zoom. I take leadership and the opportunities to lead, very seriously. I have a philosophy of leadership that is my own, that has been molded from the people I've worked for. And as we go through this today, I want to just stress that your leadership style doesn't have to be exactly like somebody else's. There's no exact way to lead. The best way to lead is to be the best version of yourself. And nobody does you better than you. And you've gotten these opportunities, or you're in the position you're in because of who you are. And I think sometimes when we move up the chain and we move up the ladder, we feel we have to be somebody different. And I'm just going to keep emphasizing that as we go through this. Your goal is to be the best version of yourself to help other people be the best version of themselves. So I feel like leadership is, there's a saying in the US, be good for nothing, meaning be good just because it's the right thing to do. Be good expecting nothing in return. And to me, that's what a leadership position is. It's a service position. It's a position where you accept criticism and you deflect praise. It's a position where I believe in basin theology, and I believe in our job as leaders is to wash everyone's feet, make them safe, provide for them, and give them an opportunity to grow and learn. And that's kind of how I've tried to go about it when I've been in the leadership position. I've been, as Roni said, I've been a soldier a lot of my career too. And, took a lot of pride in being an assistant and supporting and suggesting. And then when you become the leader, you have to take those suggestions and make decisions. And I think one of the principles that I've followed is leadership position is really about managing everyone's fear. So I'll give you an example. In the NBA, as a head coach, you have to manage the owner's fear. Are we selling tickets? Do we have a style of play that's attractive to our fans? Are our players getting better? Are we creating value with our players where they have value? Are they developed enough to earn maybe the money that they make? Did we pay them correctly, for who they are? So you have to manage the owner's fear. The coach also has to manage the general manager or the vice presidents, whoever picked the players. You have to manage their fear. Are they getting better? Did I pick the right guy? Are they being coached correctly to reach their potential? So this managing fear concept to me is getting more important every year. Every year in the NBA, things get bigger. They get the financial part of it gets bigger. The pressure gets bigger. The media coverage gets bigger. So what is your process as a leader to make people feel comfortable, but also give them enough push to grow and learn and become the best version of themselves in the situation you're in? So I think some people look at leadership as I'm the boss and I can do and say what I want. I don't look at it that way. I think your job as a leader is to set the course with your planning and your preparation and your research. to maintain the course with your work and your monitoring of the process we've made, where we've come from, where we're going. And then there's times as a leadership position where you have to correct the course. Between my first and second year with the Bulls, we changed the way we played. We corrected our course and created a different style of play that we thought best fit our team and worked for the NBA. That was a great process for us. And I felt that was something that helped the Bulls grow. But it was painful, right? Leadership can be painful at times. It's demanding, but I know when you're a leader, you embrace those moments. You embrace the challenge, the fatigue, the chasing after the goals you've established. So I would like to take a question on that, if we could, or anybody has something they'd like to help me with. I will take it.
Yeah. Somebody, by the way, I just would like to let you know that among the people that are attending now this session, there are not only people from the academics, but also basketball players and the basketball coaches. And I don't want to evaluate or to assess the ability of players, but it seems to me that two of the best Israeli female basketball players in the history of our nation now stay with us. So
great.
Yeah, it's a big honor. So I can ask you now two questions if you would like to.
Sure.
These questions came from one of the journalists in Israel. And the first question is, how does your leadership style change with the time? Do you think that you can demand more from the players as the older coach?
Yeah.
And the second question is a little bit different, but of course it's still a good one. Who was the greatest leader among players you have coached?
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer the second question first. And then, because this is a shorter answer, the greatest leader that I've been around in the NBA is Tim Duncan from the San Antonio Spurs. He had a kindness, but a directness. He had superior knowledge of the game, and he could explain and teach from that lead player position like no one I've seen. And I'm going to mention a second leader that we had that I coached was David West for the Indiana Pacers. So Tim Duncan 1, I would say David West 2, with again their toughness, their directness, but also their kindness and their ability to communicate how they felt the team should operate. Every team, to me, has to have, I call it a lion in the locker room, somebody who runs it. All coaches are striving for a player coach team. A coach team's only going to go so far, but a player coach team where the players take ownership, hold each other accountable, communicate in an effective way, those are the most successful teams. Indiana, we lost in the conference finals to Miami. In San Antonio, we won a championship. So to me, the proof is there that those teams were well led by those players, but also the coaching staffs. You need a combination of both. And in those places, we had that. Okay. To the coaching style for today's current player. I believe, and I think we understand that social media has changed everything. Everything is bigger and more scrutinized. The news cycle is so much more accelerated and quicker and sometimes, nasty too, right? But I think with the current player, you must tell them the why. Why is this important? Why do we do this? When I was growing up, coach would tell you something, you would do it. Coach would ask you to do certain things and you would do it. You really wouldn't think about why I would need to do it. He would tell you the how. This is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to do it. And you would go try to do it. The current player, the current climate is more about, why is this good for me? Why is this good for my future, my career? And you have to remember, in the NBA, every player is his own brand. He's his own business. He's his own company. And whether, it's his shoe deal, his contract, his endorsements. And if you've heard it all, they're talking about in college having the same type of branding for the players. So name, image, likeness situations. So it's going to be even harder in some ways to get guys to work together, play together. So to me, you have to give them the why it's important for them, why it's important for the team, that winning will help them, playing together will help them become the best version of themselves. And then the how, this is how we're going to play. And then you got to come back to the why again. And I think it's that process of why, how, and you build your team and you build your culture and you build your identity in that way. So two great questions. Thank you.
There are two more if you agree to accept them now. So these two questions are raised by Nathaniel. And the first question is about veteran players who have been playing in the NBA for many, many years. And during the years, they've gained a lot of power, on the team.
Sure.
And they become great figures. So the question is how you deal with them, because they sometimes feel that they have more power and status than the coach.
Yeah. Well, they do have a lot of power. I think the first way you deal with them is you acknowledge that and you understand that. It's the players that make the NBA what it is. And they're the face of the league, and they provide for all of us. The NBA has provided me personally and my family a living, and that's because of those veteran great players that have sold the league. And the TV contracts are built around those things. So I acknowledge that it's part of them. The problem is, or the dilemma is, we're talking about leadership today. So there has to be a hierarchy. There has to be vertical alignment from ownership, management, coaching, players. And there has to be a relationship there that focuses on winning and supporting and playing the right way. As we've seen, not everybody wins. Think about it. Every year, there's 29 teams saying, how do we win? How do we get better? One team wins it. And in the next 2 weeks, we'll see who that champion is. Everybody else is trying to figure out, how do we make that next step? How do we get better? How do we become a champion? So I always think that process is amazing. And a lot of that starts with the players, right? How can we play better? How can we influence winning with our decision-making, with our effort, with our energy, with our competitiveness? How can we do that? And so It is a players' league. The players do have a lot of power, but the players that understand winning understand you have to share, you have to communicate, and you have to play together. And I think Chris Paul is a great example of that. His team is in the finals. He's done a great job of kind of willing them there by playing the right way, by leading, and understanding, to me, the why we're doing it, the how we're doing it. And, they've got a great chance to win the championship. So we'll see what happens.
There's another question.
Okay.
If you can share with us about the process of being interviewing for a position,
Yeah.
either as a head coach in the NBA or as an assistant coach.
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways I think you can look at the interview process. Everybody, I think, if your goal is to coach in the NBA, then the process starts, to me, by investing in yourself, investing in, whether it's coaches clinics, whether it's traveling to coach a travel team, whether it's you become a video guy. I started at the bottom at every level. I've been blessed to have every job at every level. I was a graduate assistant in college, then I was a fourth assistant, then I was a third, then I was a second, then I was a first, then I was a head coach. In the pros, I started at the bottom. I was a video guy. I went to a scout, advanced scout, assistant coach, third, second, first, associate head coach. And to me, that process gave me so much experience that I've done every job. And when I interviewed, I could relate to every job. I could talk about my experiences and I could talk about it. I think you have to look at your resume. Is there a void in there? Is there a hole in there? Well, I haven't done this, or I haven't done that, or maybe I need to look into being that. So when you do go interview, you're the most qualified. And, if you've played, great. You don't have to necessarily play in the NBA or have played to coach. I think that's a cool thing about basketball. If you understand the game and you have a work ethic, I think you'll get an opportunity. Some people have an agent, that sells them at our level. I don't know if that's something you need for a college position or a high school position, a secondary school position. I don't know that, but sometimes it's good to have somebody speak for you or understand what jobs are available. But are you doing the things? I think you have to ask yourself these questions. Are you doing the things to become a better coach? Are you going to be ready for that position? If that I think, I don't like it when coaches, I see it at NBA level, I see it at the college level. They want to be in coaching because of what coaching can give them, whether it's financial or maybe exposure. They want to be part of something, which that's not necessarily bad, but I think coaching and teaching and leading are positions of sacrifice, right? Positions where, you're going to give and give and give. And if you get into it for the wrong reasons, you won't last. So if you want to coach, some people want to make money in life. That's fine. I never got into coaching to make any money. I got into coaching because I wanted to put my hand in the huddle with a group of guys and try to achieve something. And so I tell the young coaches, why do you want to do this? Why are you? Well, I like the free sneakers. Well, that's not really a good reason to coach. I want to teach. Well, that's a pretty good reason to coach. Well, what can you teach? Have you studied the game where you can teach somebody something? Have you perfected your teaching ability, your craft? And I think that's one thing to just to talk about that is people are hiring teachers of the game. To have knowledge of the game is one thing. To be able to teach somebody how to play, what's important, and get them to the next level, to me, is what you should be perfecting as your craft. The ability to teach and help a player grow, and to be able to communicate with them. So, I'm just going to go into a couple things of being an effective leader. Okay, I'm going to talk about those things as we'll take some more questions in a minute and just talk about. So, I think leadership starts with planning. So, are you a planner? Are you organized? Do you have a system where you can formulate your thoughts and be organized on your plan? For instance, when I had a meeting with my staff, I did not plan the meeting in the meeting. I was organized for the meeting before I got there. I had an agenda of what I thought was important. And I would have 4 or 5 things that we were going to cover that day. Well, 3 or 4 of those, I knew what I wanted to do, but I would always give my staff 1 or 2 things that they could have input on for that practice or for that situation where they could feel involved and part of it. But I didn't come into the meeting having all 5 things. You don't have time to do that, right? So your planning is very important, and your meeting time is to finish things, not start things. I think that's really important. I think you have to over communicate with your staff. Natural reaction for people is to push you away. Our natural reaction is, yeah. Well, okay, I got it. You have to keep pulling people in, and you have to over communicate. And to me, when there's a lack of communication in your leadership style, negativity fills that void. And to me, that's very dangerous. Even if, sometimes leadership is about tough conversations. Sometimes leadership is about telling people something they don't want to hear, but they need to hear. And that's still communicating. But sometimes as leaders, we run from the tough conversations. We run from the difficult moments because it's a little uncomfortable. If you do that, to me, negativity is going to fill that void, and you're going to have a tough time being successful. And then the third thing I think is really important for my leadership style is I want truthful, honest evaluation. I want to hear the negatives. I want to hear what you don't like. I want to be evaluated at the highest level so we can become the best at what we're doing. And sometimes people, again, they run from tough conversations. They run from criticism. Again, your job as a leader is to accept criticism and grow and deflect praise onto the people that support you. So that's really important. I'd also like to talk about teaching style. So we talked about teaching earlier, and our world has changed, as we said earlier. It's so intense now. There's so much public scrutiny. There's so much public exposure for everyone. Instagram and Facebook and everything that people are on, that I think learning styles have changed. And I think teaching styles need to change with it. So for instance, I have a thought process of there's 3 styles of teaching. There's tonal, which is talking, which is what we're doing now. Kinesthetic, which is touching, doing, feeling, and visual, which I think the reason Zoom has been so successful the last 1.5 or 2 years is it's tonal and it's visual. And to see Ayelet nodding her head makes me feel good that maybe I'm saying something worth something, right? And that interaction is really important in a teaching setting. So again, 20% tonal, 20% talking, 40% kinesthetic, doing, acting, feeling, and 40% visual. Do you organize your teaching sessions that way? I tried to with the NBA team. We needed to do it. We needed to see it. I didn't need to talk a whole bunch. Remember now, you got 90 games, 82 regular season games, 8 preseason games. So, after a while, the guys get a little sick of your voice. I don't care who you are, right? So you need to focus less on the talking and more on the doing and seeing. And hopefully your teaching style has some of that in that, and you can relate to that as a teacher. So any more questions? You want to go to a few more questions?
In fact, I have 3 more questions for you from the audience, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there are 3 different questions, but we'll go for it. First, from an Israeli perspective, Israel is now an Israel player playing on the NBA. He's playing for Washington.
Yeah.
Danny Abadia.
Yeah.
And the question is, Chicago, your previous team, had the option to pick him up in the draft. So the question is, why clubs, gave up the opportunity to have Abadia on the roster. Yeah. And another question that is related to this, but it's a more general one. Very talented players who are drafted by NBA players have difficulties during their first season. We know that they are very, very talented players and they have great athletic skills, etc. However, the challenge is there. So what coaches like you actually are doing in order to help these players to succeed in the NBA? Because sometimes the transition from college to the NBA level or from Europe to the NBA the transition is very unique. And if you don't mind, I'll also share with you another question. You have spoken about the greatest player you have worked with. However, you didn't mention. We know that you didn't work with him, but you haven't mentioned the name of Michael Jordan as a leading player. And if I'm not mistaken, he played for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, he did. Okay.
Yes, I know.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Do you think that the question is, do you think that he is the great leader in the history of the NBA from a player's perspective?
Okay. So the question I answered earlier was the greatest leaders that I've coached or I've been around. So that's where Duncan and Wes came from. I think we could all agree upon that Michael Jordan was a terrific leader and player, obviously. I did not coach him. We played against him. When I was in Houston, we played against Michael. So although I was the coach of the Bulls, I did not coach Michael Jordan. And but I'll let you fight that argument on who's the greatest leader of all time. From my perspective, my coaching, it was Tim Duncan. So the second question. All right. The question was, why do certain people draft a certain way? Why didn't the Bulls take drawing a blank on his name, Israeli kid?
Danny Abadia.
Yeah. Okay. Why did they not take him? Thanks, Ayet. So you have to understand every draft room has a different philosophy, whatever that philosophy is. So it could be best available player. It could be most talented player. It could be the most athletic player. It could be positional size, positional need. It just depends on what the philosophy. It could be the current roster you have. Maybe you don't need that position or that person that's available in that slot. So a lot goes into the draft and the draft room and how that works. And a lot of times the team won't tell you why they did something. They just felt that was the thing to do for them. So when you see a guy drafted out of order, or you see a guy that is passed up, again, sometimes it's a positional concern. They don't maybe see the talent that you do, or they have somebody on their roster that is similar to him, redundancy. They don't want redundancy. And they don't want a log jam maybe at, one position. So all those things go into that. All right. The next question was first year players and how difficult it is for them. Okay. So I think there's a psychological component, there's an emotional component, and there's a physical component. Every player that's drafted in the NBA has to get better. We talked about Tim Duncan earlier. We talked about Michael Jordan. I coached Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, Scottie Pippen, Clyde Drexler. All those were Hall of Fame players. But each one got better when they got in the league. They improved. They got used to the style of play. They grew emotionally, physically. They got better. Whatever age they were drafted at, they grew from that point. That process is really important. Most of those players had the ability to learn, and we'll cover that in a little bit. But your ability to pick up things, and then think about it. You go from one day being a college student to the next day making $700,000 a month. How would you react, Ayelet? How would you react to that? Would that be an adjustment for you? Okay.
Probably, yes.
Probably. Okay. So, and what happens is your character gets tested, right? And so sometimes there's growth has to happen with handling your emotion, handling your off the court business, handling maybe an adjustment in your character of, now that these things are open to me and things are available to me that maybe weren't before, do I maintain my focus on improving and playing hard and getting better? Or do I have a tough year in that adjustment? As the question kind of stated, why do players struggle in their first or second or third year? There's a growth process. There's a learning process. It's no different than, in the US, going from 8th grade to a freshman in high school. Wow, I'm in a bigger school. Wow, this is different. Going from a high school situation to a college situation. There's a growth that has to happen. And for some reason, when guys get drafted in the NBA, people thinks that growth process stops. It doesn't. It's even magnified more, and more is on your shoulders, and it's more difficult. So, three really good questions. And if it's okay, I think I'm going to go to my screen share now. Can we do that? Can we move on to that? All right. Let me see if I could do that here.
Do you want to take two more questions before you
Sure,
go?
Sure. I'll get my screen up and we'll take two more questions. Sounds great.
To me, there are very good questions associated with leadership as well.
Okay, perfect.
So the first question is, can you please elaborate on how the big data analytics influenced the processes related to, for instance, decisions on prospects and tactical preparations? Because we all know that we live today in the big data era.
Okay.
And second, one of the is raised by one of member of the audience. Is he said that in the past basketball used to be a team sport. Now it's mostly a one-on-one sport. To some extent, very selfish. Players play the game.
Yeah.
Like the example here is Harden. Why has basketball changed in this way? And is there anything that can be done to reverse this trend?
Okay. Well, the first question about the analytics, I think, is what we're talking about, the data, or the math of the game. So I get this question a lot, and it's interesting to me. And, you know, all the innovation in Israel, all the wonderful thing the Israeli people have produced over the years, dynamic, really cool things, started with the math, right? Math is the foundation of so much innovation. Well, in basketball, what people have done is they've applied the thinking that math is important to the game, and they've studied it. So I don't fight the math and say, well, it's basketball, it's not this, it's not that. No, it is. Everything in life's about the math. I don't care what you say. That's how it works. So the math is important. A corner three is the most valuable shot with a rim two. That's a fact. So the shots we'd like to get are rim twos and corner threes. You can't dispute that. So I'm a big analytics person. I believe in the math of the game. The shots we want to generate are the same shots we want to take away. And that's how I approached my team that when I was a head coach. And that's what I believed in as an assistant. So for all those out there on the Zoom that think, well, it's just basketball, it's not. There's more to it than that. And just like everything else, it comes back to the numbers. So I know that's painful for people to hear, but we're going to have to move to that thinking. All right. The team sport situation. I'm very supportive of James Harden. People may be critical of him because he has not won a championship, although I think he's going to be close here in the next couple of years and he'll have a chance to. He is a winning player. He has won a lot of games. He makes people better. It was unfortunate he was sidelined by injury this year, or they might be in the finals. So again, I go back to the math and the data. They're going to put the ball in James Harden's hands because that is an effective way to play and win. Is it as aesthetically pleasing as a 6-8 pass possession? You know, maybe it's not. And you could argue it's not. But is it effective? Does it help them win? Is he an elite player at his position that makes other players better? He is. And so the game has changed, and you can fight it and you can argue it. And well, it's not a team sport anymore. I don't agree with that. It's changed. Life has changed. A lot of things have changed in our world. Basketball has changed too. And it's a different style of play than it was 5 years ago. The NBA has changed more in the last 10 years than it has in the last 50. It's changed more in the last 3 years than it has in the last 20. And I don't know what to tell you about that, if that upsets you, but that's the way that it is. And people are going to figure out how to use their personnel in the most effective way to help them win. And that's the fact of it to me. So I'm going to move on to my screen share. Is it up? Ayelet, is it up? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this document to me is for all the people on this call. This is for coaches. This is for the players. Ronnie, you mentioned there's some players on the call. This is for administrators. This is for the teachers on the call. Whoever is on the call, to me, this is something that I think applies to all of us, and something I believe in wholeheartedly. Okay, so everybody on this call is on this call because of their ability, right? And what got you on this call? Why are you here? You're here because of your ability. We have executives, we have high-ranking people at Wingate, right? And that talent, that ability, that talent, skill, or proficiency in a particular area got you there. It's the same way with players. Players get to the NBA because of their ability, okay? And the root word of ability is able, right? Having the power, skill, means, or opportunity to do something. And I know this is basic, but to me, this is what we need to do, each of us, to become the best version of ourselves. So here's the steps that I think, from my 35 years of coaching, my 25 years in the NBA, that I think are really important to you becoming the best version of yourself in whatever it is, whatever business it is, whatever situation it is. So you have to be coachable, okay? Coachable. You have to open to accept truth, the reality of your position. If you're an assistant, you're an assistant. Do that job the best you can. If you're the boss, be the boss. If you're a leader, be the leader. If you're the fifth assistant and your job is to, mop the floors, which I've done, your job is to put up the baskets, which I've done, then you do that to the best of your ability, and you're humble about it, right? So this has nothing to do with confidence or ability. This is that you're able to take instruction, you're open to accept truth, and you're hoping to improve and become the best version of yourself. So coachable. Again, we go back to able as our root word, right? Coachable. The second thing I think is important is teachable. And we've all coached or taught students who struggle with learning. We have to repeat the same thing to them, right? We have to tell them the same thing over and over and over again. Some of that's teaching, some of that's coaching. But do you have the ability to learn? If you're a person that doesn't have the ability to learn, you're going to struggle. And usually that lack of ability to learn is because you're not coachable, right? You're not humble. You don't want to be taught anything. Okay. So coachable, teachable, able to be taught, improve with proven teaching. Okay. And a lot of times, teachable also means your work ethic and your habits. I was so excited for Zach LaVine this year to become an all-star. I spent a lot of time with Zach LaVine, in the previous 2 years. And I was so thankful that he grew, and he was very coachable. He became teachable, and he improved his habits, his work ethic, his physical strength. He got better, and he became an all-star. And I'm so thankful for that. And what happens when you become coachable and teachable is you become reliable. And reliable means you're able to be trusted. You're relied on to perform. We had a meeting scheduled today. We had a Zoom, and we're here, and we were reliable, all of us, even with our schedules and our busy. We held on to our commitments, and that's really important. So able to be trusted, relied on to perform. Durability, availability, and consistency are huge parts of the NBA, but a huge part of every teacher, coach's success. Hey, sometimes it's hard to get out of bed and get going and bring the juice and the energy. It can be really, difficult at times, but that's where the reliability part comes in. And we talked about Michael Jordan earlier. We've talked about some great players. The reason they're considered great players, the reason they're in the Hall of Fame, great coaches in the Hall of Fame, is they're reliable. They bring it every day. And they started as coachable, they became teachable, and then they became reliable. And to me, there's no better feeling than when your boss trusts you, or your owner trusts you, or your president of your university trusts you. There's no better feeling than that. And that is earned. That is earned. And your ability got you there, but your attitude, which is what these things are, helped you. Okay. And then when you become coachable, teachable, reliable, you become what Ayelet is, right? You become valuable, okay? Of great worth, respected as a player, a person, a teacher, coveted, useful, impactful. You become valuable. So I always tell the guys when I talk about this is Kevin Durant, coachable, teachable, unbelievably reliable, and he's unbelievably valuable, and he is rewarded that way. And I think that's the progression to me that successful NBA players kind of follow. And I've seen that over the years. And I think it applies to every position in life. I think it applies to every level. You know, can you be coachable, teachable? You become reliable, then you become valuable, and you can provide for your family, and you can build your career, and you know, you can have some success in whatever endeavor you choose to take. And the last part of this is the controllables, right? So sometimes we give the power to everybody else. We give the power to other people. Well, you have to take control of your situation. And the controllables are, you know, the things that you can specifically, you know, do you play with a motor? Do you work with a motor? You know, okay. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Diet, your sleep, your training, your workout partner, who you listen. I always say, listen to somebody that has nothing to gain by your success, right? And if you do well, they're happy for you, right? And then you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And then obviously body language is really important in your career. You know, are you a person that gives out good body language and you motivate people by who you are? So I'd be happy to take any questions on this. And I see there's a chat question.
Yeah, there is one more questions, if it's okay.
Sure, great.
The question is that as a coach, you have to deal with many types of personality of the players. And some players, in terms of personality perspectives, are not the same as you. You behave different than your players. So the question is how you are able to succeed, to put them together and to find with them a language that can lead them to achieving the goal of the team or your goal as a coach.
So to me, there's specific things you have to do in the NBA, and I call them the basics. So you have to play defense. You have to rebound the ball. You have to be in shape. In your conditioning has to be good. You have to train together. You have to be together. You have to be present. So, you know, everybody wants this secret little sauce or this secret thing that's going to help us become a team. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't work like that. You spend time together, you support each other. And what happens on a team when it's dysfunctional or it struggles is there's a lack of role acceptance. Everybody has a role on a team. And when guys are fighting over their roles or they're not established by the coach can define roles, but it's up to the player to accept his role for the betterment of the team. And the teams that struggle, those situations are usually not straightforward, and that's a problem. But I would just caution everybody to think there's like a secret way to do it. These things come through hard work, through honest conversations, through development, through growth. Sometimes they come through pain, right? I mean, teams, the Lakers won it last year. The Lakers have a terrific player in LeBron James. They have a terrific system. They have a great coach. They're sitting out right now. So they got to figure out what they need to do better. Some of it's health, right? Some of it's physical health, but some of it maybe is style of play or how they play. And so Phoenix seems to be a very together team this year. They seem to have their health. They seem to have their role definition really tightly wound. And they seem to be the favorite right now. We'll see what happens with Milwaukee. But to me, it's no secret that Phoenix is in the finals with their attitude of their team and their togetherness. And those are basic things. There's no secrets in that. There's no magic pill out there that you take as a team and all of a sudden it works for you. It's through trial and error. It's through working together, caring for each other, being honest with each other. Usually adversity molds all of us. And, nothing grows without some sun, some shade, some rain. And that's how it works. And I think that works in every situation. The problem is our society right now, nobody wants to go through the pain. Nobody wants to go through the tough moments. And you have to. And you have to let it happen sometimes as a coach. Greg Popovich used to say, some nights we really got to help these guys with our coaching and our teaching. And, sometimes they got to help themselves. And I think that's that way in all aspects of life. There's moments when you need help, and there's sometimes when you gotta help yourself. You got to do it. So, yeah. Any more questions? How are we doing on time? Or is everybody okay? How are we doing here?
Yeah, we can take maybe one or two more questions. And there is another question, to me very interesting, raised by one of our staff members. You were talking, Jim, about organization and planning. What about creativity?
Yeah.
How you deal with these concepts among players, I believe, and also among maybe coaches?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So to take that to a next step is all the innovation in the NBA has happened at the offensive end the last 10 years. There hasn't been a whole bunch of innovation at the defensive end. By innovation, I mean creativity, something different, right? It hasn't happened. And there's an opportunity for growth there. There's an opportunity to do something different. The game has changed so fast offensively, but it hasn't changed as fast defensively. And that's something that I've been working on personally, is how can you catch up to the modern offense with a modern defense? And just to get into the basketball part of it real quick is people think because the players are bigger and faster that the courts become smaller. Well, in effect, there's more shooting now on the floor and players are faster. There's more possessions. There's more possessions per game. More shots are taken earlier. So there's 220 to 240 possessions in an NBA game, where 10 years ago there was 180, right? So that just lends itself to more basketball, more innovation, more teaching, more coaching. So I think it's a great question. I think we copy people. They've said before, the NBA is a copycat league. Somebody does something well, everybody copies it. Somebody does something, different, everybody copies it. Well, I think the game's changing so fast that we all need to innovate and be more creative. And I really believe in that. So great question. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see that I don't have any more questions. Okay, so we planned about a 60-minute session, and as you can see, Coach Bouillen is very organized, and he was ready for a 60-minute talk. So
thank you for this.
Of all ourselves and all the participants, Jim, I would like to deeply thank you for sharing with us your ideas, and we wish you all the best, that you will be back to the NBA, and when we watch the games, where you will be on the bench, either as an assistant or as the head coach. We will, we'll tell our family members, hey, we just talked with Jim a few weeks ago, and he's a great guy. So
thank you
very much, and I wish you all the best.
I wish you all the best. Thank you for your support. And Ayelet has my email. If anybody has any more questions or anything I can help with, I would love to help and share. And take care. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Thank you. Have a great week. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. See you. Bye.
תודה רבה לכולם, והמשך ערב נעים.